Okay, we're back from our break, and we've been talking about professional course, its lesson, or the booklet number 10, Lifting the Veils, and it's the second lesson in your Pathway to Ascension Volume 2 textbook. So, lifting the veils. We were talking about locational processing before the break. Now let's move into another area here. So at the top of the alpha scale of existence, there is only creation. Whereas the goal of beta existence, or like a games universe, it can be, survival, for example. But, in our true native godlike state, our our alpha purpose, we're not talking about what's happening down here, but our alpha purpose is really solely to create. So, and here, we'll just illustrate here. Talking about new subject. And this is always the case with the alpha. The goal to survive seems to be mostly attached to our current version of beta existence. So there's been other more interesting game-like goals before. So just to be clear, this is an example. This is just an example of a goal in beta existence, or a game goal in beta existence. Even at a human level, even in beta existence, the act of creating is an incredibly satisfying and desirable position, or activity to be engaged in. So, but it's not. It's of course not the only state or condition that's available or able to be experienced by an alpha spirit. So, we talked about knowingness before. Creation, the alpha state of creation includes, a level of knowingness that extends far beyond simply knowing about something. It's an all-pervasive, absolute type of knowingness, concerning one's own creations. And then we've talked about too the descent, where we, this state of all knowingness, being able to create and pervade completely our creation, doesn't really give us much in terms of games. So when we know all, see all, there's no randomness, there's no chance possible for us to experience something or something new that we didn't already create. So there's no game involved. As spiritual beings with a near infinite existence, maintaining a position at the very top of the alpha scale basically just became boring, for lack of a better word. That's the most simple way we can say as far as what kind of led to this. So the intolerance of only kind of existing in that state of all-knowingness led to this. So we wanted to be able to also go into our creations and play, to be able to experience, actually experience our creations. So we developed this specialized type of not knowing, and this could be practiced from our godlike state in order to make, our experience of existence, our experience of our creations, more interesting. And this works out just fine, until we find ourselves just with a bunch of these rigidly fixed not knows and conditions that have basically just completely fallen outside our control. So therefore, just below creation, kind of at the top of our alpha scale, we would have this specialized state of not know, and I wasn't expecting to be putting up a scale there, so I didn't really leave a lot of space for that. No. So we have create or know, and then of course we have not know. So initially, this is initially at least self-determined. It's a postulate. It's alpha thought. It's an intention that's been made intentionally, knowingly. But in this case, it's been done to knowingly block out the perfect knowingness, and that that one would begin with as being the creator of, for example, one's own home universe, one's personal universe. So, and keep in mind, of course, we're still working with personal universe. We've just superimposed quite a bit on top of it, and this not knowingness is this shows just how this kind of came into being. So, but in order to experience, the concept of games, or to have something to do, so to speak, we have to have something to know about, or we have to be able to find out about something, and so that just kind of, descends our. So then we have. So you think that this is to know again. You see how cyclic this pattern becomes. And so we start in a position of knowing and then not know so that we can know something again. And of course, this is a pattern. And I'm just fixing as much paper as we want to allocate to this. This, by the way, everyone, this is sugarcane-based, plant-based paper, so no trees have been harmed in the presentation of our course here these last several weeks. So, okay, so the following processing exercise kind of helps get a seeker get more perspective on this area by knowingly practicing with it, even if only conceptually. So in running these, you can not know something that you really do know, or something you don't know, or even something you're unsure of. It's just, for example, with objects, you might already know how much it weighs, but in practice, decide you don't. Or perhaps you might really know, or not know something, about how something was made, and then, you can provide the answer for that, because you already don't really know. So, well, you really did, but again, we're trying to treat this tendency here, again, knowingly, because this is the only way we can systematically undo this bundled mess that we kind of got ourselves into here. And then with step B, you cannot know many things about a particular terminal, within the same process. So although we kind of try to, we don't alternate where it's like a rule where like, oh wait, you only get one answer and we got to go to the next one. But we do that to kind of keep a fixed, keep attention flowing, and then keep from attention getting kind of fixed on something, or having to linger too long or dig too deep. We're just trying to basically pull off reactive whatever comes off the top most of the time. So with the not knowing objective, step A, look around the room and spot an object. And then step B, decide to not know something about it. And with not knowing, process, and populated areas, look around and spot a person. And step B, decide to not know something about them. And then we include this in the textbook, but not knowing and regarding like zoo vision as a practice, close your eyes, spot individual things that might be in the room, and then decide to not know how they look. And again, we're doing this as a conscious knowing basis of our ability to not know and then, of course, know and whatnot. I mean, we're trying to again resume gradually this ability and this power that we naturally had in which to do this. So it would be too much of a digression to get into, but if you've read the book or seen the movie Sphere, so now the zoo vision perception, that's kind of one of those advanced add-ons we just put in here because again, we're not trying to hold anyone back or restrict anyone. We're just trying not to introduce gradients at such a point that that they're going to be overwhelming and that progress will slow. So we gotta take this from all sides. So but we also have not knowing with creation. Step A, create a mental image of an object, and then step B, decide to not know who created it. And of course, whenever running not know, even if in conceptual practice, it's best to end session with actual recall processing, validating that, something known. But yeah, just thought I'd put that in there. And you can complete this area by selecting something that you can easily remember, such as your favorite food, then alternately decide to know and then not know it a few times and select something else and repeat that. And again, just end on something that's, end on validating knowing. So, okay. So we're going to introduce a little bit more of advanced stuff here. And this has its own fancy name. Thought you still had to get your head around metaphysics in this lifetime. Well, metaspiritual. That's a new fun word for the new age. So, metaspiritual systemology. We get a little bit more into this with the advanced, the advanced upper levels, but we're pretty much at the upper levels now. So that's kind of why we get it introduced here, and it helps with the kind of understanding and getting a more solid sense of the beta defragmentation and so forth, and introducing where this is all leading to and the higher states of knowing that are available as one actualizes awareness to a point of actually, I know we've kind of just blown through this educationally, but what someone processing through level 4 and completing level 4 ultimately what this all means. So the experience of the physics and material knowledge of beta existence is only one part of what we may apply systemology to. At this point on the pathway, it should be obvious that an individual is much more than just a body, and even the mind system, that is the metaphysical, so to speak, and far beyond the scope of any kind of like brain, the neural, the physical sciences, but even beyond the mind system, which seems to be where a lot of metaphysics has kind of gotten itself caught up in without actually tapping the spirit. So a lot of this point where we're at now, kind of relating it to the research volumes in the past, we're talking about material that kind of first appeared in a volume, the research volume of the Systemology Core that was titled Imaginomicon, that came out in 2021. So we've been able to refine a bit of that to apply to beta defragmentation. 2021 was the point where we were actually achieving first solid results at the Systemology Society regarding beta defragmentation, and we had published our first official beta defragmentation procedure in Imaginomicon. So we haven't really strayed too far from where we were starting with and what was solid back then. We've just simply been able to refine it because I believe Imaginomicon was our sixth or seventh research volume by that point, and to have covered all that, to be getting to this same point with you now would not have been possible in the 20 hours that we gave. Each one of those research volumes consisted of 20 hours of lectures, not to mention countless hours of workshops and experimental work. So the spiritual side of systemology offers a seeker a little more substance, within our paradigm than what's even found with like religious traditions or certain styles of mysticism and so forth. So as many seekers with previous backgrounds with these other methods, have found that our systemology is actually far more effective for increasing and or rehabilitating our true spiritual awareness. And of course, this isn't going to happen all at once. We worked up on a gradient path here, and we're treating it, as what we are calling a pathway to ascension. So, an alpha spirit is not simply operating a beta body in this physical universe from its native state, from its native alpha state. To say so is an oversimplification. The experience of this version of beta existence has such apparent solidity to it, because of that accumulation and compactification, condensation of all the former versions of beta existence, which have since collapsed basically into this one, and created this kind of solid common denominator, so to speak. So the alpha spirit also does not directly experience the human condition. The communication of that experience, and of course the control by the alpha spirit, it's filtered through and various relays and various levels of metaphysical or mental machinery, energetic fields, energy beams, various layers of now subtle and astral bodies, all of which remains continuously created and actively running in the present. And even though, again, we become so kind of entrapped in this new human condition for this level of beta existence that we're not really aware of it. And it should be pointed out, although we won't treat it in lesson 10, that these other concepts that I just kind of touched on do get handled within our course materials. That we know that the mystics and the New Age and various religious spiritualities have gleaned partial truths that of various things, and then kind of ran with it in their own direction with their own vocabularies and so forth. But if you press forward with this, you'll not only get a more simplified, universal way of understanding it all, but an even more effective way of actually treating it. The same kind of stuff you might be looking for elsewhere. So we should consider, or what we would consider an appropriate body for the alpha spirit in this beta existence is also a condensation or a greater, solidification of these former considerations about bodies. What is maintained from previous bodies actually kind of collapses in on the human body, and so we use the expression, entrap by, to be a little less restimulative of fragmentation, but it's the layers and levels of awareness maintained by the alpha spirit really collapse in on the human body and the human condition for various reasons. For example, when we're trying to protect the body from danger or loss, or when we experience pain, the awareness, everything that the self is holding or considers its identity and so forth, snaps in its attention on the body, and this again it happens as a reactive automated mechanism, and that therein lies the issue. So ideally, to control a body, an alpha spirit would remain entirely exterior to it, simply extending a reach inside using intention, or energy beams on it, to operate one. In its native, unfragmented state, the alpha spirit maintains most of its energetic machinery completely outside of a beta existence in order to keep it from getting too mixed up with the energetic fields and reactive systems specific to the body. But again, these circumstances, kind of like what I was describing, they cause the awareness to collapse in or snap in on the body very suddenly, and this kind of reinforces this idea that the alpha spirit is, that it associates self with the body. And this happens more and more as the viewpoint tends to just kind of more automatically snap inside of it, because again, the individual believes that they are it. So the snap-in effects tend to be energetically turbulent, and it causes a type of fragmentation. And one of the reasons we bring this up, because it was discovered to find, when we were working with this other stuff, to inhibit an individual from, for example, zoo vision, having that spiritual sight where the alpha spirit is not dependent on any kind of sensory perception of the human condition. So the alpha spirit began outside or exterior to beta existence and any associated genetic vehicles or bodies, herein. So, it started outside prior to being snapped in to it. So then this is really, when we're talking about, truly being free of the human condition and so forth, this is, the way in which we must approach this, because it's the first area where we're, and again, the idea being lifting the veils at this point. That's why we name it this. So lifting the veils that are distorting kind of our clear view as alpha spirits. So we can just directly apply some of this to systematic processing that we've already used. So your textbook, it provides a list of keywords or buttons and a basic processing structure or formula, like I was describing a formula where you can then again insert various keywords or buttons. So we want to target any incidents that relate to going interior in some way. Basically, in order to relieve some of the fragmentation that's attached to any of that kind of, associated with the snap-in effects or the going-in effects just in general. Anything, again, to defragment, we got to treat the whole channel and everything on that line. So we're talking about, now just select one of the keywords from the list that seems to be the most interesting. And once that's run well, then you can just choose another until you feel good about, in regards to this area. And they are, let's see, go in, put in, want to go in, must get in, can't get in, kicked out, be trapped, forced in, pulled in, and pushed in. So now in traditional piloting, the language structure of the PCL, it can be easily modified, because the pilot is using the list to give the because you're going to notice like the structure, the wording has to be fit sometimes to, for example, recall making someone go in works, but and being made to go in works. But I think there's a couple where you may have to add like an ing or something like that to make it fit. So it's recall making someone, recall being made to, recall someone making another, and recall a time when you decided to. And that would be circuit 0, recalling the time when you decided to go in or put in, or or when you wanted to go in, so forth. So, okay. Now, if any of these buttons seems particularly charged or turbulent, and they don't seem to be just kind of defragmenting using, but just spotting them and so forth, then you'll want to use the techniques and training from the PC9, which is the previous lesson, confronting the past, and start working on running chains of incidents or chains of fragmentation that's keeping that kind of stuff suspended. So at this point, we're by the end of level 4, an individual is basically receiving all the tools that they need and has been kind of worked through them on a very light basis, just to make sure that they have good use of them. And then again, whatever whatever this stuff starts to turn up, or whatever areas are more turbulent for you, because obviously that's not going to be the same for everyone, and I have no basic standard that's going to work that way across the board. So we use these formulas. And then again, just, using that, of like confronting the past, and then the chain, running the chains back, earlier similar, using the circuits, and then of course using imagine as the PCL in place of recall if necessary. In addition to the snap-in effects generally associated with an alpha spirit's own awareness regarding a body, there is a similar area of fragmentation attached to collapse of space. And by this, we mean literally the phenomenon of energy fields and space collapsing in on the alpha spirit. So we've talked about, both areas of the viewpoints of us, going in or collapsing in on our awareness, and then we're also treating collapse of space onto us. And we treat this, this is another fun word for you, meta-universal systemology, which generally it concerns collapse of a universe, collapse of universes. So, and that's at the uppermost levels of systemological philosophy. The collapse of space phenomenon is directly tied to collapse of universes. Oh yeah. And so, as one might guess, this is the idea of a collapse of universe, or universes collapsing in on us. This would be a very turbulent area of spiritual fragmentation. So the magnitude of potential loss or sadness connected to this area, for example, the loss of home universe, would far exceed anything that an individual is likely to ever newly experience thereafter, and particularly in this lifetime. So with other areas of fragmentation, the everyday situations are simply restimulating these various types of imprinting and fragmentation. So this area really, it represents some of the earliest fragmentation we've ever experienced. So it's innate to each and every one of us. The first time it was strongly imprinted would be, again, the original collapse of the alpha spirit's own personal and individual home universe, and we take up a bit more of that and the details of that as we move into later processing levels. But since that time, there have of course been many other experiences that just kind of later reinforce the fragmentation to a point where the individual was no longer willing to be personally responsible for creation of space, you see. And so we've talked about those rising and descending matters of concerning our interest in something, our desire in something, and so forth. Something bites us, we withdraw from it. We're still doing it, we're still creating space, but now we don't want to be responsible for it. These are the types of things that we start to address as we move into higher gradients of our systemology. So now this present lesson is just, this is a direct continuation. We introduced like locational processing, and then also the creation of space exercises back in lesson 5, Free Your Spirit. And then again, the Imaginomicon was there was a lot of this type of information kind of detailed in this. So these previous exercises depicted the basic structure of space or a universe like a cube, just so we could easily define the 8 corner points that anchor the boundaries or dimensions of that space. So it's the alpha spirit maintaining the anchor points that they use to define their own personal perception of space and creation. So just as there's experience of one's own point of view, that again, snapping in on a new plane or space or a new mass, so too that there's imprints of when space or energy matter and the very corners or anchor points of a universe collapsed in on the individual. So and this area of defragmentation is just, it's similar to what we've been previously talking about. So Essentially, seekers looking to run those areas are, incidents using training and experience with, procedures. And we're looking at, however, different incidents than before. So rather than a viewpoint or point of view, POV, being snapped in on some space or mass, we're looking to basically process the reverse. So the hot buttons or keywords or phrases used for defragmenting this area include incidents of space collapsing in on the point of view, the world closing in on or folding up, energy imploding or collapsing in on the point of view, corner points collapsing in or snapping in on the point of view, and then the idea of sudden uncreation or folding up of all forms in space. So the environment, space caving in on the point of view, being pulled back from, falling away from, and then the sense that everything is suddenly unreal. There's a whole list here of all these types of, handling this area properly is, again, probably too advanced of a step for some seekers on their first pass through these materials. So get what you can from it, and then spend some time in this area when you come back to it on your future passes. So as an additional note from the upper levels of realization, it is always the Alpha Spirit themselves that collapses their own space. Although environmental stimuli and pressure or trickery and misdirection from others may get you to do it, you are the only one that can actually snap in your own anchor points. So,
the Joshua Free Imprint, JFI Publications, in conjunction with Mardukite Academy and the Systemology Society, present the single greatest breakthrough of the 21st century for all humanity, the perfection of a new standard systemology, a complete map for the way out from the bottom to the top, and your key to being an ascended master in this lifetime. Everything you need is contained in 3 progressive, self-guiding courses: the Fundamentals of Systemology Basic Course, the Pathway to Ascension Professional Course, and the Keys to the Kingdom Advanced Training Course. And each should be studied and applied in their intended sequence and order as displayed in this video. All 3 courses combined are available as 5 standard hardcover volumes, but also as 33 installments, since each single course lesson is also available individually as a pocket-sized manual. The Fundamentals of Systemology Basic Course includes Being More Than Human, Realities in Agreement, Windows to Experience, Ancient Systemology, A History of Systemology, and Systemology Processing. The Pathway to Ascension Professional Course, including processing levels 0 through 6, includes in Volume 1, Increasing Awareness, Thought and Emotion, Clear Communication, Handling Humanity, Free Your Spirit, Escaping Spirit Traps, Eliminating Barriers, and Conquest of Illusion. The Pathway to Ascension Volume 2 includes Confronting the Past, Lifting the Veils, Spiritual Implants, Games and Universes, Spiritual Energy, Spiritual Machinery, The Arcs of Infinity, and Alpha Thought. The Keys to the Kingdom AT Advanced Training Course for Processing Level 7 in Volume 1 includes The Secret of Universes, Games, Goals, and Purposes, The Jewel of Knowledge, Implanted Universes, and the supplementals Systemology Biofeedback and Systemology Procedures. The Keys to the Kingdom AT Advanced Training Course for Processing Level 8 in Volume 2 includes Entities and Fragments, Spiritual Perception, Mastering Ascension, Advancing Systemology, and the AT Supplement Systemology Piloting. All titles are available from your favorite bookseller. Explore new standard systemology today, and may you never be the same.